Anyway, Chef Kevin, we are so impressed with your creations, and first of all, I don't even know how to begin. I mean, they're just so good. It flows like a symphony.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, could you tell us more about your inspiration behind the dishes that you created?
Okay, I mean, always when I think of create a dish, the whole idea is that I try to represent where it comes from. And then, for instance, if you come to a place like Singapore, so you have to think about the weather, think about the people, and what you're going to do to adapt to the situation you're in. So, for instance, when I was thinking salmon, and everybody knows Irish smoked salmon, so the whole idea is that instead of smoking it slowly, I want to smoke it at the table to give people the sense of what really smoking is about, because sometimes you get all the magic in the kitchen and you don't get it in the room, and it tries to bring the kitchen into the room, and it brings the staff very much part of the thing also, because the things they get into it and they're part of the situation. So the whole idea with salmon is that after you smoke it and you taste the salmon, the whole idea with the tomato consomme is to make it really fresh, because it's hot weather, so it washes down, it cleanses your palate, and then the ice cube, which takes a year and a half to make. So we use 100 milliliters of poaching into 1 liter of cucumber juice.
Is that right? Okay.
So,
I thought it's so unique.
So when you bite into it, it gives you real freshness. So, and the idea is that when it's really hot climate and it's nice to get something really fresh. So that's the idea.
I really like it. I told them I can drink it every day.
Yeah.
So it's tomato consomme.
Yeah. So it's actually very good for you, because tomatoes are very good, very good cleanser. So and then when you bite into the fish and then underneath you get this little sound.
The little.
So it's the fly fish roll.
The roll.
Yeah, fly fish. So it's like a little popper. Yeah, the texture is quite interesting,
Very good.
And then you use the nulli pad sauce.
And the color is beautiful.
Yeah. So and then the next course I think was scallop, was it? So the scallop, the whole idea with the scallop, because I love the scallop, and it will come into the end of the season, so we have maybe 3 weeks left and the season's over,
I see.
And so the scallop come from a small island off the west of Ireland, the island peninsula, and the whole idea with the scallop was that, okay, listen, thank you. No sugar. The scallop, what I try to do is, because the product is the most important thing, right? So you get the product and then you deliver the product without destroying it.
Yeah.
So and truffle and scallop, they go really well together, because sometimes when the scallop is so good you don't have to cook it. You can eat it raw. So fresh. And then the idea with the truffle, it's the essential thing. It awakens all the senses, because like the powder, white powder. So that's the white truffle powder, so it takes about 3 months to make, from start to finish.
Did you handpick the truffle?
No, I didn't handpick. I go pick the truffle every year, but I was coming to Singapore, so I didn't have time to handpick truffle. So the truffle comes from north of Italy. So we have truffle in Ireland, but we won't have any until September. So we have 150 different varieties of truffle. And then the orange powder is scallop roe. So it's like the orange part of the scallop, so we dry it out and make a powder from it. And then the mousse, we just make a very light truffle sauce. It's quite intense, and then we put it into a 10 bar pressure bottle, so to make sure that when it comes out, it comes really light. And like when you close and bite into it, it's the flavour, the texture of the scallop going into the softness and smoothness of the sauce. And then the idea with the bog and the wood and the fingers was because it was to kind of bring the country, the old country into the table, So and then the whole, because all the flavors, and you finish then with the carpaccio, because it makes it very fresh and it cleanses your palate and it gets you ready for the next course. So hope that answers your question.
What's the secret behind this particular dish that we tried? It has the sea urchin.
Yes.
What sort of secret do you have? Could you explain how you made it? Did you puree the sauce?
Yeah, what the sea urchin, the whole idea with the sea urchin is that
That's right, the songs of the sea.
oh, it sounds the sea, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the sea urchin. The whole idea with the sea urchin is that imagine like you're on the rocks and you're by the sea, and you get a sea urchin and you open up the sea urchin and eat it.
Wow.
So that's the whole idea.
Sashimi
It's to
style.
bring you back to where the sea urchin come from, you know. And like the idea with the sea urchin is that we bring the sea urchin up to 52 degrees. And then when it comes to the table, it's coming down to 27 degrees. And then the sauce is only made from the juice from the sea urchin, nothing else. So we put the sauce in, and then we put a tiny drop of oil, and that gives it the smoothness of the flavour of the oil, so it takes away the bitterness of it. And because you have to be careful with the urchin, because ammonia can be quite high, and because it's salt, because it can be quite salty. You know? And then the idea was that, like when it comes to the table and you're starting, the idea with the ice is that it's cold, it makes it cool, but also it gives you the sense of the sea, because if you think of the sea in the morning, early morning, it's quite mystical and magical, and then you smell, just as the steam comes over the fog, you can smell, did you smell the sea? Did you smell the seaweed?
I did.
Yeah, so the whole idea with that is that, you know, it comes over and you can,
wow.
and you smell it, and then the idea is that you're almost beside the sea and you want to hear the sound. So the whole idea is that you hear the waves and the birds, and then it clashes against the wall. And then when you taste it, the most important thing is when you taste it, that it brings you back to the sea. You know, so you imagine you're not in the restaurant, you're beside the sea.
We were all having our own little imagination running already.
How long did that take you to create that concept? I mean,
Oh, okay. Well, to be completely finished, maybe 2-3 years.
really?
Yeah.
Oh. So is this the first time that this concept is introduced?
No, the last time last year I finished it last year, but I finished it on the very last day of the season, so I couldn't try it anymore until the season, the sea urchin season was over. So it was like in May last year, and then it was the last day of the season. There's no more sea urchins. I have to wait until December for the sea urchin to come to really make sure that I had it right, you know. So
now you finally.
yeah, constantly. I mean, what happens is that sometimes you're constantly evolving. Your dishes are moving forward, and then, but it's also important to learn to stop, not to move forward, just to say that it doesn't develop anymore, and you leave it alone. You know? So, yeah.
About your Guinness shot that you created. Can you tell us a little bit more the secret behind that?
Okay, I mean, in Ireland they celebrate Arthur's Day. It's almost like a holiday. So the whole world, they drink a pint of Guinness at the same time. So, but I was doing a class, a teaching class in Limerick, in this place, and it was around 5 o'clock, and everybody was going to pub. So I decided to make one. We didn't get out. Couldn't get to the pub. Not that I drink Guinness at all, but so it was at the time that everybody in the world was drinking Guinness. So I decided, okay, I can't go and drink the Guinness, so I make one. So that's how it developed. Yeah.
How
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
because the whole idea is you're thinking, your mind is moving all the time. You're thinking. So,
Very crazy.
Could you tell us about one of your cuisines called From My Grandfather's Farm?
oh yeah.
Yeah, how does it arrive?
By plane. No, I mean, but it's because the cheese is from my grandfather's farm. So the milk that we milk the cows.
Seriously, from your grandfather?
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
Because I was telling Robbie, I said, I really hope we get to try that from my grandfather's farm.
Yeah.
I said, it looks very good.
No, it is. I'll make one for you if you want to.
Wow,
Yes.
that would be good.
So the whole idea with it is that it's no idea. It's just that it's real. You know what I mean? When I was a kid.
So you actually flown in
cheese.
These cheese for your
Well, we
grandfather's
flew
farm?
in the sea urchins. They come from the west of Ireland, a small island called Aran Island, and the scallops are flown in from West Cork. So, like this morning, the scallops just arrived this morning, and the sea urchins. And the whole idea is because I'm here for a week, so we get it in maybe 3 or 4 times during the week. You know? So, yeah.
When I bring the next video here, I will try my grandfather's stuff.
Yeah. But I'll make it for you anyway.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Now we know.
And then with the chocolate, the whole idea with the chocolate is that it's very different varieties of chocolate. And then to make it more Singaporean, so we put coconut into it. Because, you know, like you drink a lot of coconut milk here, you know, and so we made a mousse from the coconut milk and white chocolate. You know. And the whole idea with it is that there's 100%, 72, 65, 40, so there's all different varieties of chocolate. And then with the rhubarb, the acids help it for digesting and so it doesn't feel too filling. Yeah. Do you like it? You like chocolate?
Yeah.
Very nice. So Chef Kevin, tell us a little bit more about your background. I mean, how did you aspire to be who you are today as a chef? Were there any mentors that actually gave you this?
But you always meet mentors along the way. You know what I mean? I mean, the amazing thing about life is that you meet somebody maybe once and you feel this magical thing, and then you learn something from them, and then as you I suppose that I was very lucky that I met these people and I worked under them, and they would push me, you know, and make me think for myself. And some people you can't explain it, but they just like this particular guy, Jim Kilbride, and he's like a genius, you know, and he is just so into life and the philosophy about food and where it comes from, and like food is the form of life, really. So it's the only thing everybody in the world has in common, is food. That's the only thing we all have in common. Because we eat together, we sit down, you know, we make the good things in life are about food and the bad things in life are about food. You know? So I suppose that for me the whole philosophy is that it's life. You know, it's really about life. And I'm lucky to be doing what I'm doing, you know.
So at what age did you start out in this career?
Oh, I suppose I started without realizing I was starting. So in other words, like I was always interested in background of food, where food came from. And like when I was about 8 or 9, I used to work in an abattoir. So, and it wasn't because I was interested in killing, it was because I was more interested in the animal, what happens to the animal. You know, if you kill the animal, like what happens to the body? You know, does it tense up? Does it affect the flesh? How does it affect the whole thing? And I remember the first time seeing the animal die and then opening up the body and seeing the 4 stomachs of a cow. So, and the interesting thing is that when the cow, you know, they say chewing the cud, it's an Irish expression. So the cow regurgitates, it chews, and then it comes back up again, and it goes to a different stomach. But it's only when you look and you see the whole thing, it's like, wow, it's amazing, you know? So, and then it's so, my interest has developed so much is that now we breed our own animals. Like we breed a particular type of cow, and it's a Japanese father and an Irish mother. And we feed it on Guinness and massage it with touching. And the whole idea is that like the Irish, they treat the racehorses really well. You know, they look after racehorses. So what I want to do is we're treating our cattle like the racehorses. So we play music to them, and there's only 1 kill before sunrise on every day. It's not more than 1 kill this time. So to make sure that it doesn't release a chemical into the body, and the flesh is slightly sweeter. Plus, you can lose up to 200 to 300 kilos if the cow is stressed.
Really? Is that a solid findings that you found out?
Yeah. I mean, what in scientific terms, yeah, the breakdown is that it can be up to maybe 3 or 4% of the animal, because like if you think about it, it makes sense. Like if something happens, you tense, and when you tense, you can feel the whole body tight. You know? Yeah. So imagine an animal, you know, coming, and there's hundreds of animals before, and they know what's happening because they can smell. You know, an animal has a great sense of smell, so its body tenses up, it gets frustrated, it gets anxious. You know, so what happens then is that you try to make it calm and stress, and it has scientifically, like the big thing in Ireland at the moment is that the animal, especially when you're farming large quantities of animals, that or killing at one particular time, that the stress factor is brought down. You know? So my whole thing is that you bring it down completely and make them completely relaxed, and you play music, and you know, you really look after the animal, you know. And if you look after the animal, then the taste is going to be good, you know.
So far in your lifetime, was there any dish that you have created that actually inspired you the most?
But I suppose if you were to think, probably one particular dish that I created for my father before he passed away, and when he was a kid they used to always eat pig head, but and I'm sure really even here or in like ancient in China where they would put the pig on the table and they'd eat. Everybody would help themselves and eat. Like when my dad was a kid, there was 12 people in the family, so they would braise the pig slowly, the pig's head, and then the pig's head would be put in the middle of the table, so it would be the head in the middle of the table. So they would all pick it and eat from it. So before he passed away, I wanted them to create something that was from his past, that I create something new and my version of it for him. So what we did is that I created this dish, and it was braised pig head with poaching. So, and the whole idea is that it takes about two months to make from start to finish. And no, it's not on the menu here.
No.
So we have some here, so we brought it over. And the whole idea is that I just make it a bit more elegant for